Hey everyone, it's Eric with FirearmTutorials.com, and today we're going to look at using the Aimpoint as a co-witness optic on the MP5 here. So it took me a little while, a lot of research and a little trial and error to get this exact setup on here. It works great now, but I wanted to give you guys a look at it and kind of tell you some things that you should look out for if you're trying to get a similar setup like this. So this does actually co-witness very well with the iron sights. So if you look through this optic, your red dot will basically be right on the tip of the front post here, which is exactly where you want it. Now, I will say that this mounting system here is a little tricky. I had to do some research to find out exactly which mounts and combinations of mounts will work depending on what you're trying to achieve. So this particular one here, obviously I've got the Aimpoint Micro H1, and you'll see that this mount, zoom in here so you can see it better, but the mount that's on here is Aimpoint part number 10266. I don't believe that this particular mount is still in production by Aimpoint. What this actually is now, if you wanted to buy it, is actually a B&T mount. It's, as far as I know, the exact same thing. I bought this used on eBay, and it was still, I think, like $100 or close to it. And the B&T ones are imported from Germany, so they're pretty hard to find. When they come into stock, they usually sell out pretty quickly, which is why I had to find this used one on eBay, because this is pretty much the only mount you can buy for the MP5 platform here that will work with the Aimpoint H1, T1, and co-witness with the iron sights. So most MP5 clones and the traditional MP5 don't have an integrated Picatinny rail on the top. Some of the newer or high-end builds will include those. They have to be welded onto the receiver, which obviously increases the expense and labor needed to do that. So if you don't have one of those, you're going to have to get one of these mounts. Now, if we look at how this actually attaches, you can see here that it's just a standard, basically claw mount system. You've got 4 screws, one on each side. You've got a little metal foot here, obviously where all the screws connect into, and then if I were to have this off, you'd see that there was just an ever so slight kind of flat base that sticks out from the receiver in these exact positions that the actual mount is kind of gripping the receiver. So when I put this on, it's a very tight fit to begin with before you even start torquing down the screws. And this is one of those things where you kind of need to torque them down a little bit at a time to make sure it's even. And you have to torque it down a lot and then make sure that it's actually sitting even, not higher or lower on one side. So it did take me a little bit of time to get that part figured out. And I think that if I were to remove this mount now, there would actually be some scratching of the paint because it fits that tight on the receiver. Now, if we look at the actual top of the mount, you see that there's an ever so slight little groove in here where the Aimpoint slides on. This also was such a very tight fit that I thought I had the wrong mount. Now, regarding the mount itself, you'll see here, depending on which Aimpoint you get and which configuration you get, I believe this is either called the standard mount or the standard low mount. When I bought this optic, it actually came with no mount, so I had to get this one after the fact. But I had a different Aimpoint that I was using on the UMP that had one of the quick detach arms mounts, and that will not work on here because of the way that these grooves are. This is the only mount that will work and fit into this rail. In addition, there's only one notch on here to tighten it down. So again, you really can't use anything but this optic with this mount. There is a similar B&T style or B&T mount that is a longer one, which you can use to do you know, other things besides just the Aimpoint H1 or T1. But I went with this one because this is exactly the optic I wanted to use. But once you get this set up, it does work very well. You can pick up the red dot a lot faster than you can through the iron sights, or at least a novice or intermediate experienced shooter of this platform. And the downside, cost and availability, just like most of the other things with this platform or some of these German guns. Like I said, the mount, I think you can find these Aimpoint ones used. I don't think they're currently in production, but I could be wrong, because I've only really seen the B&T ones in newer production, and obviously the Aimpoint H1 or T1 isn't a cheap optic to begin with. So that's pretty much it, guys. If you have any specific questions about the part numbers or anything else regarding this, just send me a message, because I did a fair amount of research and reading before I arrived at this setup. So thanks for watching.